Listen to the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as it glides along the woodlands through the hills and by the shore. Hear the mighty rush of the engine, hear the lonesome hubbard's call, riding through the jungles on the Wabash Cannonball. It is who I am. It really is. I mean, I play a lot of different things, or try to play a lot of different things, but when I pick up the banjo, that's who I am. I mean, this is what I've done since I've been 15 years old, and it's always been there for me. It's sort of almost like your best friend. Usually, if you come over to visit, it's sitting right beside me on the couch, right in arm's reach. And times when you're not feeling that happy, you'll pick up the banjo and play it. And so it's a real friend. It's more than just an instrument. Most people hear about the Longneck Banjos, of course, through Pete Seeger. And when I was a young kid, I happened to switch on the TV and see this program called Rainbow Quest. And there was Pete with a Longneck banjo. And of course, once I saw that banjo, it made me want to play a banjo like that, not really understanding what it was used for at the time, but there was something magical about the instrument itself. It just has a different kind of a look to it. And this banjo here is my first banjo. This is the one that when I was a young kid, I saved up my lunch money for. And back then, banjos weren't that expensive, especially in the early 1970s. A lot of people weren't playing them at all. And so I was able to get this banjo for not too much money. It's an old one. It has a lower sound because, you have these 3 extra frets. So even though you're tuned in what would be an open G tuning, like right now I'm playing an F. And that helps because if you're singing a song and you can't hit the notes or it just doesn't sound right, you have that flexibility of moving the capo down a few frets. You can go all the way down to an open E sound. So I have my other long neck over there, I'll show you in a minute, and that's tuned to the regular G that you use most of the time. But every once in a while, you're going to find yourself as a singer looking for a different key. And that's what this instrument is for. This is a singer's instrument, and not just for the singer, but getting people to sing along. I mean, that's what Pete used it for. And I think maybe it's sort of part of the instrument now. When people see this kind of instrument, they think about Pete Seeger, they think about the 1960s folk revival, late 50s, 1960s. And they think of that sound with the Kingston Trio and the Limelighters and all of those different musicians who use these long neck banjos. And at that time, during the folk boom, a lot of people played them. And they would play a lot of things on them. You can play some bluegrass, you can play some frailing or clawhammer on them. But it really has that full sound that's good for singing. It's funny because when you think about it, I could just play it on a regular sounding, 5-string open back. It doesn't quite sound the same. And I don't know what it is, if it's the, the extra mass on the instrument or what it is, but it just has a different kind of a sound. This one is a really special banjo. I mean, the other one is like the banjo that I grew up with. I've had it many, many years. But remember, I was telling you before about watching Pete on that Rainbow Quest TV show. And Pete had a Vega banjo, a long neck Vega banjo. And it looked a lot like this one here. This is a Vega tubaphone banjo. And it has the inscription that Pete had on his banjo. And the funny story is that, I mean, years later, I got a chance to know Pete well. And after I did a project about singing in union halls across the country, following the Almanac Singer's Path, the Deering Banjo Company said to me, Rick, you know, you should be playing a Deering banjo, Deering Vega. And so they said that they would give me a discount. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And they said, well, you know, you can design it the way you want. So I designed it to be sort of like that one that I remembered from watching Pete Seeger on Rainbow Quest. And then as a special gift to me, the Deering Company had made up some of these heads that has this inscription: "This machine surrounds hate and forces it to surrender." And they put that on my banjo as a gift, as a present to me for the work that I've done with Pete Seeger. And so it's kind of funny, you know, now that Pete's gone, it's a good reminder of the work that he did, and it enables me to tell stories about him, because people say, well, what's that on your banjo? Why do you have that on your banjo? And so I tell them a little bit about Pete and about this you know, kind of banjo. And as you can see, it's in G, more like a regular banjo at the 3rd fret. Has a different sound. You can hear a very different sound of this banjo than that banjo here. Here you're in G, but now I want to play something in A. I'm sliding down the capo to this fret here, and I had to slide the string underneath this little tack. If you can see this little tack over here, you know. And there's always a lot of tuning that goes on. Because, you know, the banjo originally came from Africa. And when it came from Africa, it didn't have any frets on it at all. It was more like a violin. It just had a stick on it and had a couple of strings, usually 3 to 4 strings. They would use a lot of different tunings to play the banjo. And so that's why you have so many different tunings on a banjo. You know, usually an average banjo player knows about 4 to 5 different tunings. Some know even more. You know, but a lot of us, we just kind of stick to a couple, like the G. You know. How do you do? Well, good morning, blues. Blues, how do you do? I'm doing all right. Good morning, how are you? You don't have to play the banjo so complicated. You can play it complicated. You can play all kinds of things on it, Scruggs picking and frailing and stuff. But you know, if you want to sing along with people, you don't have to get that complicated. You can play some simple chords and get everybody singing just the same.